Why we can't talk. Welcome back to a new series. I always like it when we get started on these. This one I started thinking about a while ago when I was meeting with a young leader of a spiritual community, and we were talking about the challenges of deconstructing and reconstructing spiritual communities. But toward the end, our conversation turned toward the personal, in particular, her parents and her children's grandparents. As is true for a lot of families, they have vastly different perspectives on society and, in particular, on religion. And so when the kids go to stay with grandma and grandpa, they face a gauntlet of religious indoctrination, which, as you can imagine, generates some tension. And she'd love to keep relationship with her family, but early attempts at having those kinds of conversations hadn't gone very well. Everybody has their talking points, everybody's loaded and ready, everybody has been provided by the culture wars with well-rehearsed scripts. So the feelings take on even more intensity because this is religion. Now we are talking about ultimacy, God, and eternal souls. And everybody wants what's best for these children. Everybody loves the children. So she asked me, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So we talked about nonviolent communication. We talked about active listening. We talked about finding the thing under the thing. We talked about telling stories instead of making points, and body awareness where our emotions are activated. We talked about seeking common ground. We talked about all the stuff that we've all had to be working on for quite some time now. And she's a dedicated woman, so she's done most of that stuff, but still, a trip to grandma and grandpa's is coming up soon, and she is feeling anxious. Now, she knows firsthand the harm that a certain kind of religion can cause, and that is not what she wants for her children. So, love and fear and pressure all going on at once. Again, what to do, what to do, what to do. It's territory you might be familiar with. Anyway, her story is a microcosm of what a lot of loving families are facing. All of these social forces, all of these underlying pressures. So many of us just avoid. There's just now a lot of stuff we can't talk about anymore. We carefully choreograph our family gatherings. We practice polite silence, even though it is hollowing out intimacy. We practice surface harmony, even though it masks a growing mistrust, because it's either that or we have a steady diet of knockdown, drag-out fights, or worse, we just never talk to each other ever again. Now, we have this limited set of options for very good reasons, because there's a lot of stuff going on in our collective lives as human beings living in this society. Social forces, here are a few of them. So many of us living in this society are living unrooted lives. We consume hours and hours of content. We got news, we got podcasts, we got social media, so we're informed and we are opinionated and a little bit inflamed. But all that information comes at us faster than we can reflect on it, faster than we can consider it, metabolize it. Consequently, we get unrooted from bigger truths, deeper truths, ancient truths, wisdom about how to actually live well as a human being. Unrooted. Also in our society, so many of us are living fragmented lives. Some of me is here with you, right in front of me, but some of me is on my phone or with my phone or in my own brain, rehearsing my response and my talking points without really listening deeply. So many of us living such noisy internal lives. So many worries layered on top of other worries. So driven, so often, so urgent. So, yeah, fragmented lives. Also, so many in our society living polarized lives. You know this. Clinging to our tribe, assuming bad faith about the other tribe. That's how it's been going for some time. So, of course, polarized lives. Also, so many of us are living exhausted lives because we are so pushed by the speed of our society, by the pressure to productivity, by comparison with others and keeping up, driven by our collective acceptance of the doctrines of late-stage capitalism that we saw in the last series of videos. So sure enough, we are exhausted. Also, so many of us in our society living shallow lives, lacking a deep connection to something substantive, missing a deep sense of our soul's true anchor point. We are achievers, sure we are. We have lots of distractions, very shiny ones, a whole bunch of them. But we're missing deep connection to something that is good and true and beautiful. What we saw in the Socrates series is so true that we live shallow lives. It's not just you, and it's not just me, it is us. These are social norms because we are all living them together. We are all either outrage baited and inflamed, or we're exhausted by the outrage and we have just shut down. So, before we can talk about kids and grandkids and different approaches to religion, we have to talk about becoming the kind of people who are able to have those kinds of conversations. And I will tell you, those people are not unrooted, fragmented, polarized, exhausted, or shallow. And when we are leading spiritual communities, our job is to help our communities develop counter norms to these social forces. When we are leading spiritual communities, it's our job to help our communities develop counter norms to these social forces. That's what this series of posts is going to be all about. How do we do that? And to help us do that, let's talk about Plato. Now I know, what? Plato, some dusty old philosopher? That's going to help us get out of this shitstorm that we are all living through? And well, yeah. Plato, like we saw with Socrates, has gifts to give us, practical wisdom for living well in this historical moment. Here's a quick overview of where we'll go in the series. Here's what Plato will teach us about living in this moment of ours. Plato is going to teach us how to root our unrooted lives. He's going to remind us that our first responsibility before we give our focus to the outer world is to awaken our interior world by seeing something that we have not yet seen. Truth and beauty and goodness. Truth is not absorbed at the speed of the information age. Truth must be integrated and reflected upon and absorbed at the speed of being human. That, he's going to tell us, will help us find the capacity to take care of these other things, build unity in the midst of division, hold differences about religion without anxiety. Plato is going to help us. And he'll tell us how to integrate our fragmented lives. Human beings are already hungry for the good and the true and the beautiful. All we have to do is feed that hunger, and that will recenter us. He'll remind us that our souls don't thrive on endless stimuli. That doesn't nourish us, it scatters us. He'll help us feed what is the deepest within us, help us restore interior coherence, turn away from empty distraction, urgency, and noise, find our way back to lives that can actually hold together. Plato's going to help us. Plato is going to teach us how to see beyond the illusion of polarized lives. In his allegory of the cave, I bet you've heard of it, he'll show us how easily shadows pass for reality. That's why we argue endlessly. That's why nothing changes. Coercion is built on illusion, truths that are not true enough. We cling to them because they're familiar, because they're safe. But polarization doesn't reflect the truest truth. And it's not a moral failure, we'll see. It's a failure to see what is real. Unity is born of simply seeing a truth that is truer. Plato's going to help us. Plato's going to teach us how to rest our exhausted lives. He's going to help us reclaim contemplative rest, stand against our culture driven by speed and by productivity. He'll show us how truth emerges not through urgency, but through stillness and sustained attention. He's going to teach us to explore our assumptions the stuff that we chase because we are afraid. Slowing down, he'll tell us, is not withdrawal. It's how the soul regains the strength it needs to see clearly. Plato is going to help us. Finally, he's going to teach us how to deepen our shallow lives. He will insist that the good life must be connected to something deeper than achievement or opinion. The soul's true home is not gathering stuff. It's not gathering success. It's not gathering distraction. It is connectedness to something that is enduring and real. Beauty. Beauty is not a decoration. It's a foundation. It draws us out of triviality. It draws us into depth. Orienting ourselves to the good, to the true, and the beautiful, we become spacious human beings, grounded and deepened. Plato is going to help us. Plato invites us to take a step back, explore the most basic foundations of human well-being, and do the interior work that will make the outer work possible. All the more important as we are leading spiritual communities. So, if you're leading, or if you're parenting, or if you're just living in this fractured world, Plato has gifts for us, gifts that root us, integrate our lives, open our eyes to a bigger picture, and ground us in something solid. Well, I hope you'll join me in this series, explore how this ancient wisdom can help us navigate our modern chaos. If you want to get notified when new episodes go live, go ahead, subscribe.